So basically, it was announced recently that they are making a Mandalorian and Grogu movie. There's a lot of rumors and reports that came out after the fact that was like, well, season four is being planned, and then there's a report after that where it's like, the movie is for sure happening, and that was due to the strikes, but the season four now is kind of in limbo, because that was written before the strikes, from what I hear, and yeah, so they don't know if they're gonna put out a season four or not. Maybe that'll turn into partially the movie. We're not sure, but yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I kind of want to know what your thoughts are first.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? Maybe we have a season four. We apparently have a movie.
Yeah. I think a movie is good. I of course was very critical on season three of The Mandalorian, but I think with a movie type budget and hopefully a concise story within a movie runtime, I think that could really work for The Mandalorian. I'm just a little worried that The Mandalorian will never have finality, because they even said like, well, if this movie does well, then there's going to be sequels. And I'm
Right.
like, but I don't want there to be a ton of sequels, like maybe just make one really good movie and let that be enough. But yeah,
Because I'm curious. Mandalorian, even though we are critical of season three, like we didn't love it. I didn't hate. I didn't hate it. Some people
I would
hated
say I
it,
dislike
but
it.
I disliked it. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But regardless, season three did end in a way where you could, if you wanted to just make movies, you could
Right.
just make movies. I feel a bit strange if they were to make a movie and they're like, then continue the story in season
In
four,
this show.
and then
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
another movie, or maybe just season five.
I think, yeah, I totally agree. I think like if you were to do a movie, you can't go back to a show format unless it's like the final thing he's ever in. I feel like it has to be like The Mandalorian, the final season.
Because I think I read a report that said that we would still ultimately end with that Dave Filoni Mandalorian verse movie, so like the story would be coming to an end.
Okay, so that is confirmed that that'll be a finale movie then
I
for that universe.
I believe so,
Okay,
but
interesting.
to be honest, I don't really believe anything that I hear from Lucasfilm,
Yeah.
because it to be honest, like it seems like this this idea of a Mandalorian movie just came out. Like we had been talking
Yeah.
about that movie with the director of James Mangold for the first Jedi, and then we have that movie, like the Taika Waititi movie, and then we have the Rey movie, which I think the Rey movie is probably happening, but
Yeah,
there's been so
yeah.
many changes, and this just feels like, even I guess what makes me feel like a little weird about it is they're not like, well, hey, maybe there's a season four, but we don't really know. I think they're just kind of like, it feels like they're scrambling. And
I would almost say they're like creating a lot of backup plans in case like things like the audience doesn't love the movie or the audience do love like the movies. So like it just feels like Disney now has to be reactionary because they are like losing quite a bit of money off of so many box office failures this past year.
But I think even more than just Disney, I just feel like this is Lucasfilm in general lately.
Yeah. I mean, Lucasfilm has definitely shoved all their focus onto Star Wars and making that a success.
Well, I mean, what else have they really done? They tried to do a little bit of
Well, remember, they were going to do an Indiana Jones show after the movie, and that got canceled. They were going to keep making Willow, and that got canceled
gonna
and
say
removed
Willow.
removed off of Disney Plus totally.
right.
So, yeah, and I'm pretty sure there was reports that was like Disney telling Lucasfilm that like you're only going to work on Star Wars at this point. Which I guess makes sense. Like Star Wars is a huge, like when done right, it's a huge cash cow. But
I would like for Lucasfilm to like make something new. You know?
Well, I mean, like just apart from Star Wars, just like
Yeah.
just a new IP.
But even it was interesting. I was listening to another podcast today, and basically the idea being presented was like, just get away from everything after the original trilogy or the original trilogy or whatever. Even like the sequel stuff, just move away from it. Either 45 days 45
days.
45 years
Yeah.
into the future, or go back to the old republic and just start making content or movies or shows around that time period, as opposed to trying to figure something that works out.
I think that is a huge problem. Like creating so much that fits within like the original, not the, well, I guess I'm saying the original 9 episodes now. Fitting stories, so like so many stories in between those stories, it starts like just the universe of that era starts to get muddled, and we start to care less and less about those stories. And I think you even run into plot hole problems, like when they do this like finale movie that Dave Filoni's making. How could you not include Luke Skywalker in that? Because he is like the biggest, most well-known Jedi in the universe at that point. You know, like
I mean, I guess he still could, depending on when it takes place, because Mandalorian is how many years after Jedi? Do you know?
At this point, they're now 7 years. Like season 3 of Mandalorian was 7 years after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, so like if we're staying even if you jump like 4 years later, you know, you're still not running into the Ben Solo issue, you know? So like he's not super so like that makes sense to me. But I think like you run into the issue of, again, unless we find out Ahsoka dies, or you know, like, or you find out that Grogu dies. I mean, there's things like that.
Star Wars won't kill off those kind of characters, I don't think. I mean, at this point, they seem very very unwilling to kill even minor characters like Reva, or that kind of sheriff played by Timothy Olyphant. Yeah. So like I don't know, and I don't even think they killed off Cad Bane. Like I think he's still alive.
I still think he's alive too.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if we're ever gonna see those two characters again, because I don't think a Boba Fett season 2 is ever gonna happen. But they were not willing to kill off those characters to further a storyline, and I just don't see them willing to kill off a main character like that for one of their main shows.
Right.
Unless it's like the finale of the universe for some reason.
But going back to what you were talking about with the finality of a story.
Yeah.
Do you think that they are capable of doing something like that? Like, do you think that Lucasfilm in Star Wars is capable of committing to a finality in today's like day and age? Because maybe it's the Marvel sort of stuff that I'm thinking about the most, but it does seem like all other studios have kind of brought in like, well, let's just keep it going, as opposed to like what we used to have, which was, for better or worse, like there wasn't necessarily always the means to keep something going forever. And what Marvel did was unprecedented. But at the same time, there was that, well, there's the finished story and we're moving on, you know? And I question that that'll happen, but maybe it will. Cause I mean, like in Andor, they're just doing 1 and 2. They're doing season 1 and 2, and then apparently that'll be it. Unless we find out, and now we're going to have a side character get their own spin-off show.
To be honest, I'm shocked it didn't go this way. Like when the series was even like first announced, they had announced the season 1 plan where it was like over the course of like that specific era. I don't know how long it was, but then like the season 2 would be taking place like every 3 episodes would be like a year closer, I think, to Rogue One.
Right.
And
I think they're still doing that. It'll be like every 3 episodes is like 2 years in the future or something like that.
My prediction was that season 1, if it did so well, they would then break up season 2 into like 3 or 4 seasons. which they haven't done.
Which
So
I'm glad.
I think
I don't need
yeah.
that.
So I think it, they're capable of ending smaller stories, but in a shared kind of universe that they, I think, have huge hopes of really making as successful as Marvel. Like that Ahsoka, Mandalorian, Boba Fett type of universe they're making. I don't know, and like unless it becomes so unpopular that they're just like, yeah, let's just write a good ending for this. I don't think they will ever do a true finale. It'll be more of like a soft finale, like Marvel did with Endgame, and then continuing afterwards. So
You could be right.
it's just I just think that's
But do
that's
you-
in their best interest.
Do you think
know?
season 4 is happening?
if if the movie comes out first, I do not think so. I think the scripts will then be either beforehand, they'll be like written into the movie, or they will be a part of like the sequel to the Mandalorian movie if it does well enough.
And if it was just movies from then on out and you only had seasons 1 through 3, how would you feel?
I think I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah. I think because like I said, I think a movie budget would maybe serve it better at this point, because it's not like they're making a gritty Western show anymore. It's a greater Star Wars universe show.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of needs a movie for that now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Just let Moff Gideon be dead this time. Just let him.
Please let that be why there's no more show. Like that was just the saga of Moff Gideon, and now we're moving on to movies, which is something different.
Yeah.
I would love that.
I love Giancarlo Esposito as Moff Gideon. He was great for those first 2 seasons, but then this third time around, it was like, come on, it's the same thing over.
The repetition
and over.
is just so bad. It's so
I just felt like
monotonous.
I was watching at the end of the day, like just 3 long cartoon episodes where
Yeah,
he's
the villain is-
the main villain.
yeah.
He's still doing the thing, and then the hero goes in. He's like, I'm gonna stop you, and then he stops him, and then you're like, I'll get you next time, Mandalorian.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, like the first season, I think was a kind of like I thought it was ridiculous that he survived the first season, but I think it was still like a good setup into season 2, because you had the Darksaber at the end, and at the end of season 1, and you're like, oh wow, okay, what the hell's going on here? But yeah, no, after season 2, he should have just been written out.
Right.
But no, he had to be broken out of prison.
Or
so.
just like, even if you did keep with Moff Gideon, just, I don't know, I don't need to have him like, well, now I have Mandalorian armor so I can fight you.
Right, and let me show you these clones so you can just destroy them, and let me tell you my evil plan.
Yeah.
He was
he was monologuing,
Yeah, he was. That was a bad finale.
I was
bad
thinking
season.
the Frozone thing. And guess what? He was monologuing.
Oh man. Well, hopefully the movies are written a bit better. From what I hear, Dave Filoni will be helping write.
But Jon
the
Favreau, I mean, like,
movie.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, he's made some of the best movies in the past 20 years. Like you did Elf, Iron Man. He did The Mandalorian first. Well, helped bring about The Mandalorian. I know people really
I guess he didn't really direct that.
I know a lot of people love. Well, I think he might have done some stuff.
I think he did a couple of episodes. Yeah, but not.
But I mean, he's just been a part of so many great things, And
I mean, a lot of people like. Didn't he do a movie before Lion King, like a live action?
Oh,
Did he do?
He did Lion King.
He did Lion King, but I know a lot of people didn't like Lion King. I don't know. Maybe he didn't do another Disney one, but yeah, I think he's always got a job at Disney for sure.
For sure. I mean, let me see if I can look up some of his movies and shows. Chef.
I mean,
never
just
watched
having-
Chef, but Chef.
Oh yeah,
The Jungle Book. He did Jungle Book.
that's what I was thinking. Jungle Book. Yeah, people like Jungle Book.
Yeah, they did like Jungle Book. So I mean, let alone Elf, Iron Man, great.
Elf and Iron Man is all you need, and that's stellar directing. Like 2 of the most iconic movies of all time, honestly.
Yeah.
So.
And I know people like Swingers and and like we said, Jungle Book. So yeah.
Yeah, good director for sure.
Yeah.
So I have some hopes for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.